Did you know when I was living in Miami Beach, I was working, I was doing all the hotels in Miami, and when I was there, I used to work ship cruises a lot, going to the islands, the Caribbean, through all the Caribbean. And I had more fun. And, you know, I never was seasick, ever, ever on a ship, ever. But on flight, first time I flew, I was scared. But on the sea, never. And I'm sitting with Don Sherman, who really discovered entertaining on the sea. Tell me, Don Sherman.
It was actually during a Writers Guild strike.
Uh-huh.
And I had nowhere to go, and somebody called me up to go and appear on a cruise ship.
Right. Do
some stand-up comedy on a cruise ship.
Uh-huh.
And I went there, and I hadn't worked as a comedian for 10 years. I was writing.
Writing, you're a writer.
And I worked the Copa in Vegas.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even remember my act, and I got an album or two, and I started going my material. But when I went on that ship, and I saw what was going on, I just started to explain the experience through my own personal viewpoint. And the audience inspired me. I mean, they related to the whole thing, and it was, and I've been going back to work for this particular line now.
Is it the Holland?
Holland America line.
Good line. One of the best.
Been around a long time.
Right.
118 years. When they started out, Gavin MacLeod was being toilet trained.
You're right.
Yes. Michael Jackson was black.
Ah.
O.J. Simpson was white.
You see, hey.
See, doesn't that sound like an act?
Yeah, but you were clean. That's what's so, on ships, you got to work extremely clean, because I remember that.
Well, you know, actually, it's really, the audience on the ship is very much like the television audience that's bussed in. It's mid-America. You get old people, young people, Jewish people, Catholic people, black people, white people. And what you have to find is really a human denominator that they can all relate to, you know?
Yeah. Don Sherman, originally from...
Bronx, the capital of the world, capital of the universe.
How did Don Sherman become a comedian or developed into show business? How do you get in show business, first of all?
Do you know, the strange thing is when you keep searching for the beginning and you can't find the beginning, like there never was a beginning. I keep saying, how do they get that first job? Because when you get a first job, you have to go over, and it takes time to go over. Now they have a comedy store where you can go on, and you can fail, and you come back the next night. But in those days, if you weren't a hit, you were on a bus in the middle of Binghamton somewhere.
Binghamton, New York. You're right. I remember that. Out in the Catskills.
Yeah.
Tell me, Charlie Rapp.
Charlie Rapp,
He used to do all those one-nighters.
Yes.
Johnny Martinelli Jr. Johnny Martinelli.
Going back.
I
remember, I used to hear about you. Skippy Lowe is coming. Skippy Lowe.
I did a lot of comedy those days.
Yes.
Tell me.
And now you're here in this doing the show 18 years.
18 years.
In the studio where you can't come in the front. You have to go around the back and in the side. Why is that?
I don't know.
And
can't park
either.
Only
place I've been in the whole world where you don't have sweet and low. You did not have any sweet and low. Everything else, you have cameras, you have nice black, but no sweet and low.
Don Sherman.
Yes, that's me.
You write your own material.
I have to. Who else is going to do it?
Now, you've worked with some big stars. You also worked Carnegie Hall in New York.
Yeah.
With who?
That was with Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66, which is now Brazil 99. I wish I could change like that. Don Sherman, 2009.
2009.
Yeah.
Don Sherman, but you had a television show here, matter of fact, just around the corner on Channel 13.
I love that show,
The Don Sherman Show.
No, it wasn't. It was a famous Morris show. It was I used to host horror films here on Channel.
Like what's her name? Elvira.
Elvira, right.
But she started. You started before her.
Before her, right.
And Elvira took over after.
Well, they wanted me to take off my clothes and put on that outfit, and I refused to do that, you know.
And have a long black wig.
And she came in and stole the action away.
Tell me about working Channel 13 at that time.
Originally, it was offered to Pat McCormick. They had a bunch of horror films, and he got ill, and they called me up, and they wanted to do a hosted horror film.
Right.
I said, well, if the horror films are so successful, these guys should have an agent. and I'll be their agent. And I dressed up like a gangster, and I was Dracula's agent, and I talked straight, showbiz. You know, he'd give me a call. He says, "Don't talk to the boss, please." He said, "I know there's no blackout drapes. I'll talk to him. I know you don't like the sun coming out." And I used real show business stuff.
Yes.
Applying to these guys, like the monster came in with the doctor Frankenstein, and they wanted to break up. And,
To break up the movie,
yeah,
of course.
and they no, the monster wanted to go out and do his own act. He didn't need the doctor with him anymore. And the doctor would say, "He's nothing. He's an animal. I made him, and I can break him." And the monster would get me. I said, "You guys calm down now. You know, you got to get along with you. Together you're magic, but alone, who knows what you'll do? You know."
Don Sherman, that show became very, very successful. It was like a cult thing here in L.A.
For about a year and a half.
No, but was it in the 70s or early 80s?
It was 1975.
75. I just got back from Vietnam. That's
You were in Vietnam.
Right. I was in Vietnam.
So that's why we won the war.
72. Oh, I try to help. I entertained the guys. 72, I arrived back from Vietnam here.
How long were you there?
And then I met you with Mimi Hines.
Oh, yeah.
Mimi Hines. Phil Ford and Mimi.
She's so great. I met Mimi when I was writing the Bobby Darin show with Jack Hanrahan, and she came on, and she's
Who's some of the people you wrote? Bobby Darin show, you wrote.
Yes.
You wrote for many shows.
I wrote for Joey Bishop was the guy I really
I like Joey Bishop.
got into the business with, and he taught me that attitude, you know, attitude, everything is attitude.
What do you mean attitude? Like that's.
You have. I'll never forget when he got a job. With Frank, to work with Frank Sinatra, and I said, "Wow, Frank Sinatra, man, you're working with the greatest. He must be so excited." He says, "No, it's the wrong attitude. The attitude is, it shouldn't be whether I work with Frank Sinatra. It's the question whether Frank Sinatra wants to work with me." So that when he came out, his opening line was like, I remember something like, "I wonder when Frank's crowd's going to get here." It was his state of mind. So you got to decide in your own mind where you work, what your attitude toward that job is and to life is, you know.
Bobby Darin, tell me, I met Bobby with Dick Roman in New York. Across the street from the Taft Hotel was a coffee shop there. What was that coffee shop? That's it, Hanson's Coffee Shop. Remember that?
And Bobby was Bobby was a question, I think, of too much talent. And not only did he have too much talent, he knew he had it, which is the worst feeling.
Attitude. It's attitude, you just said.
And because he knew how much talent he had, he could never get success fast enough. And if he got success, he could never get as much success as he felt he should have, and he was justified because he had so much talent.
Yes.
So he was on this race. He was an incredible man.
Wonderful.
I love working with him.
He was a surefire entertainer.
Yes.
I remember
like
that.
you,
Very
Skippy.
surefire. Oh, come on. Tell me about all the shows. Barney Miller.
Yeah.
You were on that show for a long time.
No, I did.
You did several.
I did about a couple of acting shots.
Because you're an actor too.
Well,
a good actor.
A good actor.
Because comedians, if you're a good comedian like yourself, you're automatically a good actor.
But not when I came out here. In the 60s, they said comedians can't act. We don't want them in sitcoms.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, a friend of mine who was becoming a director then, and he was a comic, Howard Storm.
Howard Storm.
He didn't want me to mention he was ever a comic. Shh, keep it quiet out here. There's something you got against comics. You couldn't get a job. I was up for the Cheers show to play the coach up with me and the other guy, and they picked him because he was an actor, and they didn't want comics. And all of a sudden, today, every show's got a comic. Every show's got a comic.
Well, look at Red Buttons. He's a burlesque comic. Look how great great actor.
Right.
See, I always believe good comedians are good dramatic actors. There's that line there, that certain line, you know, because basically down deep, Don Sherman, I bet you would like to do a dramatic role. As funny as you are, come on.
I'm doing one right now. Look how dramatic this is. It's all in black.
Come on, no.
Close-ups, so serious, and you are so serious. Man does everything. He directs. He worries about the lights, the sound. He said the sound is not working. See, I never knew about technicalities.
When you did your show, you never worried about things like that.
Well, I ran into lights and cameras. The acting was, but you know everything. You know the cameras over there. You know the framing was no light. The sound was no good. You readjusted the mic. The man came and adjusted my mic, and you readjusted that mic. I could never do
She's
all
going to
that.
hate me now. I fixed your microphone.
No, she's wonderful, but after all, you had that extra level of experience and perfection.
Las Vegas.
18 years.
Okay, Las Vegas. Tell me about Las Vegas. Not 18 years. I've been in show business 50 years,
Not
damn it.
50, but
I've
you've been on this show for
I don't care about
in
this
the
show.
same place, in the same place without the sweet and low, where you came in the back for
Here we go with
18
that.
years. You've been
I'll get
sneaking
you
in
some
the back.
sweet and low. Don Sherman,
What?
Las Vegas. Come on. Who did you work
Las
with?
Vegas, because I miss nightclubs. I was talking to one of the
Change.
fellows here. There is no more nightclubs. Las Vegas has become like a merry-go-round. Not that it's bad, Disneyland, but I remember you walked into a lounge and Harry James was playing.
Right.
And, you know, and then that was just a warm-up, no cover, no minimum. Now there's a Kino parlor when you walk. There's no Harry James. That's the whole difference. That beat is gone. The night, we got to bring back the nightclubs.
Absolutely.
Thank God for cruise ships. Cruise ships have become what nightclubs
You're
used to
having
be.
fun on these ships, I see.
How can you not
I'm
have
looking. Look at your
fun? How can
tan.
you
Look how
not have
wonderful
fun?
you look.
You go from island to island, and all you do is eat and lay in the sun. And you know what I like? I like the audience because they're little older people. I like an audience where you can get a Pepsi AC if you want from the audience. You know, we have they're so good. They're retired. They're mellow. They're brown in the sun. They're enjoying themselves, and they come into this gorgeous setting and this club after they've been to a beach all day, and you come out, and I just love it. I've had such a good time. I wonder why they pay me actually.
So you found your own thing now on the ships.
So far, I started out during this Writers Guild strike. I did one show, and I made up an act. Now, I was in the show business for 15 years. And
Right.
it took me 15 years to develop an act.
What do you mean? Because you did one-liners all the time.
I wrote material,
Yeah.
I worked nightclubs. I came on this ship.
Because you couldn't ad-lib. You had to do an act.
I came on this ship, and rather than do my act, I
Right.
just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on.
Right.
For instance, I said I got this call, which is true, to go on a cruise, you know? And I know cruises, they go to Europe, Mediterranean, Far
Right.
East. He says, where's this cruise go? He said, Mexico. Mexico? What kind of people cruise to Mexico? I pay thousands of dollars to get into a place that people have risked their lives trying to get out of. You know, it's just a joke.
Well, I'm going to show that clip. Can I show that clip?
Of
the Mexico thing.
Oh, sure.
Or just now, you're talking
Go
about.
ahead,
I'd
go
love
ahead.
to show that clip.
Go ahead.
This is, I think, the one you're talking about right
This
now.
is part of the
Part
act
of
I
it.
do
Yeah,
on the ship.
let's see this clip right now. Of,
Are you really going to show
Don
it?
Sherman.
He knows
Yeah.
exactly where to look. He knows
He's
everything.
got it.
Knows
He got it
everything.
all set.
Give him a cue.
Let's
There's
go.
nobody here. He's cueing nobody. There's nobody here.
He's going to show it.
He's talking to himself.
The loudspeaker, the sun will rise at 5:15. The man is in charge of the sun. These are trained officers. Every officer on this ship is trained 8 years. In the Maritime Academy in Amsterdam, 4 years of officers training in Rotterdam, and 2 years in the Arthur Murray Dance Studio. I'm impressed. I am impressed. I have never seen anything run so punctual. Ping pong tournaments end while the ball is in mid-flight. And why? Because we're with the Dutch and everybody knows the Dutch. They're perfectionists. We had a Jewish captain. This would be a different cruise. Jewish captain says tomorrow will be there 8:30, 8:45. Maybe we won't go all together, you know? Not the Dutch. They do what they say they're gonna do. They said they'd bring us to Ensenada, and they brought us to Ensenada. Why they brought us to Ensenada? That's the first port I've been to where the town hasn't arrived yet. I mean, I've heard of sleepy ports, but Ensenada is in a coma. And then we left Ensenada, which is the best thing you can do with Ensenada. Now, don't get me wrong, Ensenada is the place where the people from Tijuana go for nightlife. And then we spent 4 days on the ocean and 200 bingo games. And they brought us to Lahaina, where we couldn't even dock. We had to drop anchor in the harbor. They were expecting a cocaine shipment from Panama. We had to go by tender, which is like a rehearsal for the Titanic. You had to have your tender ticket, your tour ticket, your identification ticket. They love tickets. They don't make anything on the cruise. They make it printing tickets. I was so excited Lahaina morning, I ran down to B deck. All I saw were hundreds of people coming off the tender. I thought they were reproducing on the tender. I finally got my chance. I got on the tender. I didn't get sick once on this ship. I threw up 3 times on the tender. And the tender brought me right to the heart of Lahaina, where they had a flea market set up, looked like Don Ho's garage sale. And all I saw in Lahaina were buses and buses and buses and buses. All those buses and no place to go. Now I know why I can't get a bus in New York. They're all in Lahaina. You know, you can't leave Maui by car or by train. If you could, the place would have been empty years ago. And I understand some people took a tour of the highlights of Lahaina. Tour went from 11 to 11:15, and that was with lunch and a nap. And then we left Lahaina, and you notice the captain revved up the engine, and we sped through the night to get to Kona. And after 5 minutes of Kona, I said, what was the rush? I was ready to go back to Lahaina. Kona's like Kmart that's out of control. But Kona, I did the most exciting thing. I took the boat tour. That meant I had to get off this boat, get on another little boat, go to shore, walk 2 feet, get on another boat, which took me right out past this boat again. Even the fish look bored with Kona.
The fishes, that's funny. The audience seems to love that.
Well, it's the great thing about Skippy. The wonderful thing about that is we've all been through this experience together. And my whole act, and it's not an act. I mean, I was up there just telling them what it meant to me and what I was going through, and they went through all the same things.
Same thing.
I described the captain, the room, and the food, and it goes on for 45 minutes like that, and then I suddenly realized there's no place else you can work where the whole group's been the same place that same day, and then they all came together that night, and you talked to them.
Of course.
The common bond is fantastic. In Vegas, they're coming from all different times. One's gambling, one's sleeping, so they get a different consciousness. But on this ship, they've all just eaten. They've eaten the same food. They've had the same sweet thing that and they so much identity that the transfer of thinking is a phenomenal feeling. I love it.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Please,
when the person first gets on the ship, and you meet them on first day, and when they're leaving the ship and saying goodbye to Don Sherman, what kind of a different feeling? There must have been a...
Well, the great feeling is this was a thing they waited for all their lives. You shared it with them. You laughed at it with them. So I make some very close friends.
Become good fans.
Well, everybody comes to. It's very interesting. At the beginning of a cruise, the first day or two,
they're all stuck up. They don't know what to do.
By the last day, when they're saying goodbye, people are crying.
And like a family.
No, they got their bill. No, they're crying out of sentiment.
John Sherman, you got this record out, this beautiful album of Charlie Rapp's Enterprises.
Yeah, that's the what we sell on the ships for the folks, so that they can play that.
And this is your act, and this is live on TV.
Yeah, those
this is
are
your
some
stuff that you
television spots that I've done as a stand-up.
Tell me.
But the big thing I love is this book that I put together, and then I also have jams and jellies that my wife sells. No, I have this little book of
jams and jellies.
Cartoons.
These are cartoons
about the cruise
this
experience,
is great.
and I find that people.
Look at this. Can you get?
People
Look at
buy
that.
it.
Look
Can
at
you get that? It's black
I don't
and white.
know. Yeah, it's black and white. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is cute
See, knows
stuff.
just where to put the
Look
book.
at that. How cute. This is cute
Man runs
stuff.
his own so fast.
Tales from the
Bloat boat.
Bloat
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
Do you know I worked on the Queen Mary, the last voyage on the Queen Mary?
Did
and
you
I had a
really?
ball on it. Yes, Dick Damone worked it, and a few other people. Dick
When was
Roman
that?
worked
What-
it.
what year was
I don't
that?
remember. The last voyage of
Dick
the Queen
Roman,
Mary.
Dick
I threw
Roman.
You know, that's when I quit smoking. I had a Dunhill, Kintz, and I threw them overboard. I was singing Danny Boy on my knees,
And
and I
you-
was coughing.
And you took your cigarettes.
I went to the cabin. I took my cigarettes, Kintz, threw them overboard. Never touched a cigarette ever since.
No
last
kidding.
voyage.
That's
30-some years ago,
that's
maybe.
fantastic.
Rocky, come on, tell me about Rocky. I want to know. You did Rocky
Well,
1, you did
well,
Rocky...
you know, Rocky was
The
because
movie.
of famous memoirs.
Right.
Stallone was a fan of the show.
Was he a fan of your show?
Yeah, and he called up the studio and he said, "I'd like this guy to come down." And at that time, Rocky was not. Was a
No, he was
unknown-
hanging around Schwab's.
It was a low-budget picture. Nobody really expected that much. And I went on down there, and this guy comes up to me. He says, "Hey, famous, how you doing, famous Morris?" And I say, "I'm Sylvester Stallone." I said, "Really? Pleased to meet you." He said, "You know who I am?" He said, "I'm the star of the movie." I said, "Wow, that's great." He's not really much time. I wrote the movie. I said, "Wow, wrote the movie, started the movie. It's fantastic." He says, "You don't believe me, do you?" I said, "Of course I believe you." He called the director over, John Allison. "John, tell him who I am. He's the star. He wrote the movie. He's here to read for Andy, the bartender."
That's right.
So he looked at me, and we'll talk to each other, and we talked, ad-libbed, and
That
gave me
was
the
it.
job. It was
There you
fun. But acting's tough. Those poor
Is it
actors.
tough?
They get up 6 o'clock in the morning, and
It's
then
like going to the factory.
yeah,
punching
but
recline.
with the smaller parts, you there at
Yeah.
7 o'clock. They don't
Hang
get to
around
you
the
until
studio.
the next day at 4 in the afternoon.
So
And you've been in character role. You forgot who you are as a human being after that, you know?
So you've done a lot of good movies you've done. You've done Rocky 5,
But
3.
I gotta tell you, you mentioned Dick
Roman, great singer. Dick Damone-ish type
I
of
was
singer.
booked in Canada with Dick Roman.
Really? Where in Canada?
In the
In Toronto?
Gatineau Country Club in Hull, Quebec.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I get there, and I was the last plane out because it was a snowstorm, and Dick Roman can't get there. So
Snowstorm.
I figured, I'm going to get a chance to be the headline act. So the boss says, "Do you know another act we can book?" I said, "My wife, Mabin Hughes, great singer, dancer."
So your wife is a singer?
Oh, yeah, dancer.
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, she's doing a
Oh.
show now called Still Strutting. But the point I want to say is that he says, "Well, could you get her?" I said, "Hey, well, I don't know. She's busy. Give her a call." So I called her up. I said, "Hello, Mabin. Yeah, hey, honey, how are you? Listen, they need an actor." "Oh, I'm coming. I'll be in the plane." I said, "No." She said, how much you going to pay her?" She says, "I forgot what we said. I don't know, $500. I said, "Well, I don't know. I think she worked $500. She, okay, maybe offer $750. I said, "Honey, listen, he wants to offer you $750. I'll come there for nothing. I'll come. I'll no. She's not sure. Could you throw in the plane fare? I'll be there. I'll be there." Okay, I make the deal.
You're a good agent.
Books her. She's coming out. The next day, the ad comes out in the paper,
Dick Roman.
starring Mabin Hughes
Oh.
and Don Sherman.
Oh, I love it.
I created my own star. I never got it. And stayed with her ever since. In
So
a
you-
couple of days, we'll have our 36th wedding anniversary.
God bless you. How many children do you have?
One child.
Are you in the business?
Amy Sherman. She produced and wrote the Roseanne show, and then she just had a show that her husband, she just got married, and my daughter's gotten married. She's married to a man named Dan Palladino. Very
Dan
sweet
Palladino,
guy.
nice Italian guy.
He produced Over the Top, which
Right.
they've just removed.
Maude, tell me about Maude. You've done Maude, you've worked on Maude, you've worked on Archie, you've done
Sitcoms.
sitcoms, a lot of them, but
Little
Night
big
Court,
parts because
Divorce Court.
a comic could get that joke, you know?
Yeah.
But
You enjoy doing
tell
that
you,
then?
acting is, you gotta know, like you must be a great actor, because you know where the cameras, you know where the lights are, you know, he has a special frame for this show that he's working on, it's only gotta be in this, I don't know what he's
Don,
talking
are you
about.
teasing me?
No,
Come
I'm not teasing you. I admire people who know about those things, I don't know. I work with actors and they say they feel the light on their back and the camera responds to them, and I don't know if that's, I don't know, I don't understand that. I just go.
Do you miss
they
New
give me a
York?
line.
Do you miss New York?
Oh, New York is the greatest place.
It's the greatest city in the
Manhattan,
world.
The greatest
Isn't
place
it?
in the world, because if you're bored, you go down, you open up your door, and there's 8 million extras showed up just for that day, walking around. It just got an energy that I really miss. I go back 2-3 times a year just to get this.
What has been the hardest in show business for Don Sherman?
This show.
Come on, Don.
No, this show.
What has
This
been
show
the
was
hardest?
very hard because you know why it was very hard? Let me tell you why it was very hard. I'll tell you the truth.
I can't get serious with
My
you, Don.
wife said we were supposed to be here 1 o'clock. Now, I said, I talked to Skippy, and he said 1:30, and Skippy's a technical genius. He doesn't bandy words. If he said 1:30, she says, no, he said 1, so we left, and it's 1:10, run the highway, and she's getting me crazy. Now, listen, you park, you jump out of the car, I'll park, I'll find the place, you run up, you late, you can't do this, and finally, we get here, and I go to like what looks like a very impressive studio.
Right,
It says
right.
Skippy Lowe Show. What? Skippy Lowe Show. Yeah. You go around the back, to the rear. Watch, there's a drunk laying on the floor. Don't bother. He's a nice guy. He used to be a light man here. And then you come in the back, and then I came in the door, and I was really surprised because it's a beautiful studio.
It is.
I mean, it's a nice room. It's clean. It's modern. But there's no sweet and low. I've never
get you some
been any
Sweet and Low.
place where there's no sweet and low.
What has been the proudest moment in your life, Don? What has been the proudest? Probably marrying your wife, probably. Or
Yeah,
the one,
well,
or
my
your daughter.
being born, and the proudest moment of every day is a proud moment.
See, I'm looking at Don Sherman.
every day
You're
that I
very,
wake up.
you know, you're a very easygoing guy. It
Yes.
seems like you must be. Are you funny around the house like you are here?
I think I am. There's no difference in how I am anywhere.
Really?
Yes. This show I'm
You
a
have
little
a great
different
sense
because
of-
of the drama of it. The
Women
blackness,
love
the
men.
focus, you know.
Women love men with sense of humor. They really love men with sense of
Because
humor.
it eases the tension.
that-
I guess so. Yeah. They love them, but they take the singer to bed.
True.
Oh, what a wonderful time I had. I have to leave right now.
I'm looking at you. Would you do it the same way,
You have to look
Don?
at me. You're standing right
Don,
here.
looking back, would
Yeah.
you do it the same way right now? Would you do it, or a little bit changes around?
No, because I live from my instincts. I
Good.
go from day to day, so as long as my instincts are sound, as long as my capacity to interpret life is
Yes.
sound, I don't predict day or day or day. It's the capacity
Oh,
to
that's
react
great.
to the day that we have to develop. And I say, if we collect money and we buy my book, no.
What's your philosophy of life?
If at first you don't succeed, fail.
It's true.
Failure, it's always waiting for you. Opportunity knocks once, but failure's always there. It's around the... If you want it, if you like, oh, I failed, hey, I'm having a good time, you'll be so happy. No, just take life day by day. Get up in the morning, check for blood. If there's no blood, start singing. It's a miracle again. See if you can stand up. That's also a miracle. Some
Absolutely.
people wake up in the
That's right.
morning, one morning, and they can't stand up.
stand up,
They
that's
call
right.
out a doctor, I can't stand up.
Don Sherman, who is Don Sherman's idol as a comic or a comedian or personality? Who does Don Sherman look up at?
I don't.
You don't
just,
look at him
no.
anymore?
Life is the
Is
only
your wife
one I
really?
really look. And you.
There are a lot of people
and you,
like
because you
like
know
Shelley Winters loves Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt. She loves Eleanor. She adores Eleanor Roosevelt.
Well, she probably knew her. I didn't
She
know
did.
her. I liked her because I
Yes.
liked her husband. I thought he did good work. He's a
Eleanor
great
Roosevelt.
president. But it's strangely, I mean, I have respect and admiration for great
Kirkland, you know, every time I hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow with Judy Garland, celebrities like yourself, stars, have such great humanity about themselves, like yourself, caring about the world, caring about what's happening out there, about human beings. Tell me about Sally Kirkland, why movie stars like yourself, like Elizabeth Taylor, all these great stars.
Judy's daughter, Liza Minnelli,
Liza helps
raises
people,
a lot of money
for AIDS. Tell me.
I'll tell you, from my point of view, we're at a point in the history of the evolution of the world where we're either going to self-destruct or we're going to raise our consciousness to be a global family who cares about not only the physical children, but the child within each of us. So no matter what race, creed, color, circumstance, sexual preference, lifestyle, whatever, that we are there for each other as an extended family. And Judy singing that song and me thinking about my friendship with Liza, I think all of the women and men I know right now, each one of us has pet charities and foundations that are doing charitable work that we do go out of our way to try and support, either raising money or doing hands-on volunteer work.
Right, of course, AIDS Walk and everything, yes, right.
Last night, I was at the Institute for Individual and World Peace, and we had people from the LA AIDS Walk,
AIDS Walk,
and the AIDS Ride, the bike ride that's coming up from San Francisco to LA to raise money for AIDS. We had people from the Carl Bean AIDS Care Center, where a close friend of mine, Rick Sherrill, who was a minister in my church, the Movement of Spiritual and Awareness, where he passed over on Easter.
Right.
I wanted to know, could I show his picture and talk a little bit about my experience of being his caretaker?
About this caretaker, this gentleman that you took care of for like 8 months or 9 months?
Yeah, I was his caretaker and his, what they call durable power of attorney, meaning that his own family was so far away and financially unable.
Did they reject him because he was gay, or did he have AIDS or anything?
No, they did not have money or the ability to just get up and come here. His father is ailing, his mother was dying, his aunt was dying and died the same day he died. His mother was taking care of his dying aunt and his sick father, and they didn't have the money. I flew his sister in, and she was with him the day before he died. They did see him last January for the last time. I'd like it if you could bring your camera in, because I think he has the face of an angel, and I just want to say...
Real tight, look at that face. Good. How old was he, Sally?
He just turned 40.
40?
Rick Sherrill. And you know, one of the spiritual guys of my church, John Morton, said to him recently, "Thank you, Rick, for the ministry you're doing, just in demonstrating this process for all of us, and letting us serve you and you serve us." I've been living at Peace Theological Seminary, and
you have an apartment here, and didn't you live in this?
At the seminary.
How
I
do you
live
do
with
that?
34 people. Well, I'm taking a master's course in theology and peace work at Peace Theological Seminary. It's a 9-month course, and the only way you can do it at the seminary is to live there, and that was fine with me because I tend towards loneliness when I'm not married, which I'm not. And
Never been married, have you?
I've been married twice.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, children?
No, I have godchildren.
Okay, go ahead.
Beautiful little godchildren. Anyway, so last September, Rick came to a church meeting, and he stood up and I could see how frail he was, and he said that his car had been impounded and that he'd been out in the rain for 2 days, and I thought, oh my God. So I took him to lunch and I said, please stay at my apartment in West Hollywood and let me take care of you. And thus began an education for me, Skippy, of what does a caretaker do.
Caretaker, but as an actress, as a busy actress, as Sally Kirkland, how could you take care of somebody as a busy actress and take care of a human being?
Well, I learned. I plugged into AIDS Project LA, APLA. I plugged into AIDS Healthcare Foundation, into Project Angel Food. Project Angel Food brought lunch or dinner every day for him. APLA sent nurses, aides, medical help, dentists. He had to have 2 or 3 teeth pulled. This was all provided for with his Medi-Cal, and it's so
Right.
beautiful to see the work that's being done. And I went and met with his, his, what do you call it? They have caseworkers.
Caseworkers, uh-huh.
And then I, towards the end, in the last month, it got extremely painful for me to see the amount of suffering. And at one point, he ended up, I was in the Peace Theological course.
Right.
And I got the feeling something was wrong, and I called the house, and normally he answers the phone, and he didn't answer the phone. And it turned out that he had fallen, and he was lying face down on the floor for 15 hours, unable.
15 hours? 15 hours, Sally?
Because what happens when you have AIDS is, your body is so fragile, and he had neuropathy, which is a nerve disease in the feet, and he couldn't, stand, and so he fell. So I'm going crazy trying to reach him, and eventually and his aide from APLA was out on the street and couldn't get in because he wouldn't answer the buzzer. So the manager, Betty Knight, whose son accidentally shot himself to death last September, so I've been being a minister for a lot of these dear souls. Betty went up there and got in and found him, and the firemen came, the paramedics. He was rushed to Cedars. And thus began my journey in the last month of 24 hours a day, pretty much. Wonderful man, Marshall at Cedars, they have an HIV ward. And they eventually suggested 24-hour health care. And I didn't feel I could do it at the house because, you need people trained. So Eddie Almos and I had raised a lot of money on television for hospices, but I'd never been in a hospice before. So I found out about Chris Brownlee Hospice, which we had raised money for on television. And I went there, and it's in a beautiful setting near Dodger Stadium with beautiful Elysian Park, trees and grass and everything. And he stayed there for a week. But I wanted, when we knew that he was going to pass over fairly soon, I wanted him to be near the church. And the Movement of Spiritual Unawareness is on Adams Boulevard between Arlington and Crenshaw. And there's this wonderful place, Skippy, Carl Bean AIDS Healthcare Center on Adams. And I went there.
Downtown, yes.
Downtown.
Yes, beautiful. I've seen it.
And it was so beautiful. And they took such loving care of him. And so what I did was I put my mattress on the floor in the room with him, and I lived in the hospice with him in the last week of life, which was right up until Easter. And
Sally, I can't believe you just did that yourself.
yeah, because at this point, I became his whole family, and because I'd had a clinical death experience myself in the 60s, I've been to the other side. I've experienced life after life. You guys watching this show, there is nothing to fear about death. There was such bliss in my experience of life after life, and the sound current, and the light, and the Christ consciousness, and the angels, and everyone you've ever had in your life, seeing them from a different perspective, from a Christ consciousness perspective. And so I was helping Rick, saying there's nothing to be afraid of. And the Project Nightlife, they have a technique. My friend Tom Hahn, who works with John Peters and produces films, he produced a film with me called Cheating Hearts. He and Cassandra, they taught me how to rebirth someone as they're dying. So I would get into the bed with him and hold him, and he'd go like, and he'd go like, and I go, and he'd go, and I go, and so the soul who's in the state of transitioning understands the comforting, the nurturing, the warmth of going into the other side, and not the fear and the panic. Anyway, dear Rick.
Is that what you'd learned from helping this gentleman?
Yeah, it was
but not the fear of not dying?
No, I learned the joy of when you're doing service for someone. And I say this to all of your fans out there watching your show. This thing I was at last night at the Institute for Individual World Peace, everyone who did service, who found out about this event, they came from Educare, which I do work for South Central Kids. They came from
You do a lot of work for everybody, don't you?
No, but I'm not saying this about myself. There were people there from all different organizations who do service. And I stood up on stage and I said, people have said, what part do you want to play, Sally? What Oscar do you want to win? And I said, but really to me, the greatest thing in the world is when we're doing this, when we're doing service for each other. This is my Oscar. And so if I could have my wish, everyone on the planet, no matter where you are, that can be helping an elderly person across the street. That can be, if you don't have money to give for AIDS, giving someone who has AIDS a gentle massage or a little foot reflexology or cooking a meal. That can be anything that we can think of that is coming from our loving.
But Sally, out there, Look at the bombing today in Oklahoma. Look at the hatred we have among Americans. Hatred. And you're here sitting there and telling me, I know it's wonderful to tell me about love and spiritual and all that, but there's a lot of hatred out there. What are you going to tell about those people that hate?
I would say, let's
Please
all
tell me.
pray. I would say, for myself, in my church, we try and meditate and pray 2 hours a day minimum. And when you take the time to go within and just say, Father, Mother God, I ask just now for the light of the Holy Spirit and the Christ consciousness to be with all of us here in this world and surround these souls that have departed, and to surround these souls that are in such darkness that they feel that they have to strike out in againstness. And by striking out, they're striking themselves, of course. But if we get up in a rally and we add our negative thoughts to the violence that's already going on in the world, we are doing our own form of psychic violence. So when we see violence in the world or experience, rather than saying, why are you doing that? It's more like, you know, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. If we don't go to that place where we are all of it, we are the violence, we are the loving, we are the happiness, we are the sadness. So if you have your choice, Skippy, what are you going to focus on?
Naturally, I'm going to focus on positive happiness and be a little boy and be happy.
So that vibration of your little boy will go out, that love, that innocence you have, that joy, that'll go out, and that will affect the vibration on the planet.
I try, but it doesn't sometimes. It really doesn't. I tried that.
Do you surround yourself with loving people?
Who knows? How do you know what's loving people? Who is loving people? Sometimes you don't know.
Well, but if you walk into a room and you feel suddenly physically sick, or you feel yourself go into upsetness, you have a choice of staying in that room and being physically sick or in upsetness, or walking out of that room. You know, I feel that in the invisible realms, there is an on and off battle going on between the light forces and the dark forces.
So you believe that then?
I do believe that.
Okay.
And I was in Egypt and Israel right before and a little bit during Kuwait. And there was no doubt in my mind as I went in different places in the Holy Lands that there were energies going on. And I was there for peace with 150 of us from the Institute
and
for
you met
Individual
that
World
man
Peace.
who's evil.
No, you see, but I won't.
You don't call him evil.
No, I met that human being.
Human being, okay.
Whose name is Gaddafi.
Gaddafi, yeah.
And I spoke to him about how 150 of us were there for peace, and I hoped he was as he went into the summit conference.
And what did he say?
I don't remember. I think he just smiled very cordially. He did establish himself with neutrality that day at the summit conference. So although he didn't come out against, per se, Saddam Hussein, he also did not come out, you know, against, you know, what we were doing there from America. So he was neutral. All we can ever do, you and I, and those of you watching this show, is, and I know this sounds dramatic, but if we lived every day like it could be our last day, and how would we want to spend that day, we would probably be really grateful for having each other, for having, like in this moment, I have the opportunity to have all of you watching this show experience my heart. And so for me, I thank you for giving me that opportunity. I don't have to dwell on the fact that I may have just lost 2 TV series or something that didn't happen in my career. Because for me,
your career is not that important for you at this moment.
That's right. For me right now, in this moment in the world, I've just lost one of my best friends to AIDS. And so far, no one's handed me a script where I can talk about AIDS how I'd like to talk about it. They hand me a lot of scripts that have to do with violence and killing, and I've turned down about 20 in the last year and a half. I would rather make less money
scripts about
raising the consciousness.
Raising the consciousness.
That doesn't mean that I don't love really well done thrillers. It just means that I have a focus now. And you know, I wanted to, if I could, play you a little excerpt. My dear friend and teacher, John Roger, wrote a book. It's out in the bookstores now. I was at the Phoenix bookstore the other day.
John Rogers. How did you meet John Rogers, first of all?
That's a long story.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But it's 1972. I was out here doing The Sting and The Way We Were.
With Robert Redford?
Yeah. And JR, I call him. He's been my best friend ever since. And whenever I get a chance, I mention his books and I perform his books.
Yes.
I've been working with actors from my acting workshop.
Right.
Piece.
And you also teach acting.
I teach acting, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And as a matter of fact, I'm doing a gig at the Actors Studio, Norman Mailer's Deer Park. And
So Sally is going to be at the Actors Studio?
Yeah, May 9th.
May 9th.
I don't know if the public is allowed to come.
The public isn't allowed to come into the Actors Studio.
But Norman Mailer, wherever you are, I am playing Elena in Deer Park. Forgiveness, the Key to the Kingdom by John Roger. And The Tao of Spirit by John Roger. They just came out. I was at the book party at the Phoenix Bookstore in Santa Monica last week. If I could, I'd like your producer to play an excerpt.
Course.
You'll hear my voice and one of his poems from the Forgiveness book.
Okay, let's roll
There's
it.
a little graphic.
It's a cute little
this
graphic.
came from a book. This came from a show called Cup of Tea.
Okay.
My friend Kim Nodes, who
Let's
studies
have a
acting
cup
with
of
me.
tea and let's watch this, okay? Thank you. Roll.
Newness. Jesus Christ was born in a manger, signifying that wherever we find ourselves, that's where we birth. Right now, wherever you are, inside of you, you can start re-Christing. In this, there must be innocence. To have innocence, there must be naivete. To have naivete, there must be forgetfulness. And to have forgetfulness, you must have forgiven. And so we enter into the Christ action, which is forgiving, and we also forget. We enter into the awareness of newness and innocence, and once again, Christ is born among us.
I'm just listening to that innocence. If we only could live in the world, even as 60 or 50 or 80
You do.
of innocence.
But you do.
That innocence, I try. I really try.
I think that's your charm, Skippy. I just want to quickly show people
Yeah.
the book from which that came, Forgiveness, the Key to the Kingdom, John
That's
Roger. It's
lovely.
out in the bookstores.
It's lovely. That innocence is so. I try to live that way, and
But
I
you
love
do,
it.
and I think that's your
Sally, It's so
charm.
difficult, that world out there. It just drives me crazy.
So you know what we do? We create our own world. We promote, create, and allow innocence.
But so difficult sometimes. It really is. I try. I get out there and I try, but it's difficult, Sally. So you meditate, don't you?
Yes.
Before you do anything, every day.
I try and do it every morning. Sometimes if I miss a morning, I'll do it during the day or at night, but I do it. And that's as simple as just sitting there and turning off the mind or letting the mind go. We have a thing in our church. I think I did it last time I was on the show. We just go, Anahu, Anahu.
I love that. It's wonderful. People do it on the buses, wherever they go.
You do that inside. So I'm sitting here looking at you, and I'm talking to you, and inside myself, I'm Anahuing. Hu is a Sanskrit word for God. Anai means empathy for all souls. In my church, no soul is lost, and out of God comes all creation.
So when you look out there, Sally, to see people, you look good. You look for the good in the people, not the bad in the people.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, when I look at people, and sometimes I'll see them, they'll be all upset.
Right. That's me sometimes.
But then when I look in the eyes, I can look in the eyes as if Christ were looking in the eyes, look through the eyes of Christ, or look through the eyes of St. Joan, or look through the eyes of someone I really love, like Rick, who just passed over. I look through the eyes of someone who's in that gentility, and I'm seeing the God in you, and I'm seeing the God in you see yourself. I'm just holding up the mirror to you. So suddenly, things can kind of relax if you're looking through the eyes of God and seeing the eyes of God. And if I'm touching you this way, you know, and you feel this, and you feel, oh, I feel her energy. Or if I'm speaking with tenderness in my voice, then it doesn't matter what I'm doing in my life. I'm giving you healing energy, loving energy. So you can kind of disarm people's violence.
Yes. Sally Kirkland, as Anna, nominated for Anna. Great actress.
Thank you.
I mean, you are a fantastic actress. You've done many roles. Theater, movies, television.
Yeah.
Craziness sometimes on talk shows. You get up there and you flaunt your body.
Comedy improv.
Is that what you call
Comedy
it?
improv.
Carrying on. But real deep down, Sally Kirkland,
loves to
This
act.
is Sally Kirkland right now we're talking to.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I have a role that you
Yeah.
would like because
Go
it's
ahead.
this is Sally
This
Kirkland.
is really Sally Kirkland we're talking to.
I have a role you, Skippy, will like, and I think the people who are relating to what you're saying about me.
Right.
It's called Song of Songs, which is from the Bible, Song of Songs. And it's a woman who runs one of those French hosiery stores,
Right.
you know. And Peter Bogdanovich directed it, and it's with George Segal and myself and Brooke Adams. And it's airing sometime soon on Showtime, but they haven't announced the air date. And we shot it in Toronto. And I think it's a part that describes what you're saying. It's me and my innocence.
Innocence.
But it's also me, my comedic ability,
Right.
dramatic ability, vulnerability, and childlike essence. And I'm as sexual as I am spiritual, which is an interesting dichotomy.
Right. So you have learned from your lifestyle, from your lifespan, learning from this young man from life, and John Rogers. It's much, you transfer it and bring it into the films now, to the set.
I like
Tell me
that.
about that.
Well, Peter Bogdanovich, who I just adore. I think probably everyone who's ever worked with Peter loves him. He's an actor's director. And I know all
He is
women,
great.
he makes every woman feel like she's the most beautiful. He has a scene of me in this movie, which is part of a trilogy Norman Jewison produced, where he's likening me to a Botticelli painting and to various master painters. And I'm laid out like nude on the bed with just perfectly covered in the right places. And I'm just like the painting. So the camera goes from the painting to me. I said, Peter, you made me look like I'm 20 years old. Well, but he said, but Sally, you look pretty good.
Yes, you certainly do.
But this movie is so dear because this woman really thinks that she can help men by talking to them about their wives and helping them buy hosiery for their wives. But meanwhile, she's seducing this man, George Segal, and he's falling in love with me and leaving his wife. But she doesn't mean to do that because she's really in love with this love.
Yes.
But she's obviously a little dysfunctional. But anyway, we had so much fun doing it.
Favorite role? Come
Favorite
on.
role.
Favorite role. What have you done, Sally? What's your favorite?
I would say that my favorite role on St. Joan is St. Joan on stage.
Right.
On film, it would be Anna.
Anna.
And on television, it would probably be The Haunted, a true story that Fox Television. I got a Golden Globe nomination for that, and I had 4 kids, and I had 10 years of paranormal
Saw
experiences.
that was great. That was a spiritual thing. Yes.
Yeah,
It was
and
fabulous.
I kept believing in God, which got me through tragedy
Right.
after tragedy after tragedy. But the Catholic Church was not exactly helping me with exorcisms. So I went on talk television,
Right.
exposed the Catholic Church,
Yes.
and then suddenly there was exorcisms going on. I love that role, and I did get this wonderful Golden Globe nomination.
What would you advise young kids out there when they want to come to Hollywood? Young actresses like yourself.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I teach young kids.
Yes.
I teach South Central kids a program called Educare.
South Central is in Los Angeles.
Well, I used to teach downtown, but
Do
I
you
also
really?
teach inner city kids in Carson, California, in what they call middle
How
schools.
interesting. You go to the schools?
Yeah, and I teach as a form of
There's
volunteer
Sally Kirkland
service.
again, helping people.
But they say to me what you just said, what do I do when I
Yeah.
want to be an actor?
Yeah.
And I say, well, just bone up on your singing, dancing, acting, pick up a mic and be a
Anything,
stand-up
right.
comic.
That's right.
Learn how to rap positively, make up your own raps, and then go to the comedy clubs,
And
you
work
know,
out.
open mic.
Absolutely.
Do open mic night, get together little skits with your friends, and then perform them for your friends, produce
Right,
yourself.
right.
Go to Samuel French in Hollywood and pick up the monologues for men, monologues for women,
Right.
memorize a comedy monologue, memorize a dramatic monologue, put on evenings of comedy and music,
Right,
or evenings of drama and music, show your talent off, show your friends' talent off. And so one little boy, Jabari, he's actually working now. I met him at Curtis Middle School.
Right.
I don't know if he's working now, but he's worked in films. And a number of them got their SAG cards. I was so excited. They were like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, wonderful.
But I do love to teach young people. Right now, the class I'm teaching, it's mostly people in their 20s. But I also coach, and I've been talking to the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. I might
Tell
be
me
doing.
about Strasberg. Let's get back to Strasberg. Lee Strasberg.
Well, Anna Strasberg.
Anna
Strasberg has asked me to do my show, Nani Bruce and the Power She Calls Love.
Right.
At the Marilyn Monroe Theater next season.
At the Institute. Yes.
Yeah. And the Marilyn Monroe Theater, when Lee was alive, I inaugurated it with Twelfth Night, where I played viola. And Bobby De Niro's then wife, Diane Abbott, played Viola and Olivia.
Yeah.
And Fox Harris, who, bless his soul, died, was Malvolio. And we did Twelfth Night for some months. Learned was that you could do Shakespeare in the Marilyn Monroe Theater and be a method actor.
Yes.
And some of the critics said that they believed the sex change, which was phenomenal, considering that I look the way I look. I'm talking down here and I'm dueling and I'm
Right.
But anyway,
But you did your one-woman show.
my one-woman show at Theater Geo.
It was great.
And so I'm doing that, but I'm doing it off book entirely. I did a
Right,
stage reading. Now
right.
I'm doing the whole thing with the musicians. You know,
Keeping
with,
busy, all this, and helping
and possibly
people, and helping
teaching
people.
Oh well.
I mean, Sally.
Oh, Skippy. But hopefully the people who see this show will say, "Oh, well, that's easy. I can do that." And that's really why I come on these shows to inspire
good.
people.
You feel good when you go to bed at night, and feel good about all these wonderful things you're doing for the world.
Well, I don't. When you say that, then I feel like.
But you.
I'm a. I'm
not saying Joan. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, I must say.
You're a movie star who's
Yeah.
helping others, and
Yeah.
you're not just, being a movie star at that
Right.
time.
Well,
Same
my
as
feeling
Shelley
is.
does. Shelley Winters.
Yeah,
does the same
Shelley
thing.
taught me a
Is
lot
that who
about
you learned
this.
from?
Shelley taught me at the age of 17 about. It's really important to help the underdog and to be socially conscious and politically aware.
Right.
And care about being a humanitarian. She taught me that. And I really pride myself that I live in a seminary that some people would consider to be in South Central, and they said, well, what are you doing? Why aren't you in Beverly Hills or something? And I said, well, I think this is where the most amount of light needs to be right now. And yes, I do have my place in West Hollywood, which was
And
for
you
the
keep
last
a place
7
in
months.
New York. You keep a place. You keep a place everywhere.
Well, I try, but my real point is that I don't believe in having to live a certain lifestyle because movie stars have to live a certain lifestyle and be
Right.
seen in a certain way and drive a certain car and have a certain amount of money and have a certain kind of role they play in a certain kind of marriage. I don't believe in that. I believe you do what works for you, and what works for me is how can I be of assistance to the highest amount of people, the most amount of people? What can I do for the highest good? So for the highest, I'm sorry, you were going to say.
I'm going to say that Lee Strasberg
Yeah.
has taught you that, like Kim Stanley.
Oh,
Lee,
Stanley.
Shelley
Kim
Winters.
Stanley. Jessica Lange is looking for you.
Jessica Lange is another one. Jessica Lange is another one. These people are just, they're concerned about this.
Yeah.
And that's why you do it. Because you are just good actresses, usually.
You know what I think, Skippy? I think basically everyone that's watching this show right now is a good person. And I think that sometimes you're kind of like unaware of the opportunities that haven't been tapped of how you can, I'm just going to talk to the camera, how you can share your heart more. And boy, there's something about volunteerism, which is a political catchphrase we've heard recently, even from the government. But I'll tell you, as someone who's been volunteering for about 30 years now, whether it's old age homes or I go down the Los Angeles Mission, the Laugh Factory, I was served.
Do you know Hollywood, New York? I've been here since the early 70s. I arrived back to Hollywood from Vietnam, and do you know, I was working clubs around here, and in the 70s there was a wonderful show downtown at the Amundsen Theater with Joe Ferrar. It was Man of La Mancha. What a great show. Gypsy. That's another great show. Those are my two favorites. Broadway. They try to bring Broadway to Los Angeles. And they do sometimes. There was a young lady in the show in the Amundsen Theater with Joe Ferrar. She's a singer, actress. Today she's a director. She produces movies, television. And her name is Jana Robbins. Jana Robbins, very versatile lady. How are you, darling?
Great, and it's wonderful to be here. I'm really
Jana.
happy to be here this afternoon.
May I say something to you? Growing up where?
Johnstown, Pennsylvania,
Really?
the famous flood. You've heard of the Johnstown flood?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's my hometown.
Growing up as Jana Robbins, is that your real name?
No.
That's what I wanted to find out.
I have never been asked this before.
Really?
And but I'd be happy to answer
Okay.
it. No, I grew up as Marcia Eisenberg in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Eisenberg, I love that.
Thank you.
Well, that's a nice
Thank you.
Marcia.
No, it was wonderful. My mother used to dance with Gene Kelly back there, and that was the start of this whole love of theater, actually, in Broadway.
Really?
Mom used to dance with Gene Kelly, and I started going to dancing lessons back in Johnstown. It was always my dream to be on the stage and to go to New York, work on Broadway,
So you did.
and I did.
First time when you arrived in New York, what was the first thing you did? Very
The
first.
very first thing. Well, actually, I think it was.
Did you go as Marcia or as Jana?
Oh, I went as Marcia, and,
Right.
and one of the first things I had to do was come up with a name. It was very funny because there was this man that was my manager at the time, and that's where it started. He just didn't think Marcia Eisenberg was going to be well received, and Streisand, I guess, wasn't a star at that point, and we didn't have other unusual names, Tova Feldschuh, and so he really wanted me to change my name, and it felt strange to do so. And it was after discussing it with my mother for quite a while that she finally one day said to me, after we'd thought of all these different last names,
Right.
she actually then said to me, Jana. And I said, Robbins. I mean, for some reason, we just changed the whole name. And then I walked into my first major Broadway audition and wrote a name down that I'd never written down before. Skippy. It was really interesting. Out of 600 girls, I got the part, signed the equity card, Jana Robbins, and that was when Richard Rodgers was still alive. And my first job was out at the Jones Beach Marine Theater. Do you know the big
Right,
theater
of
out
course,
in
of
Long
course.
Island? And we did South Pacific. And that was the beginning of Jana
I want to wash
Robbins.
that man out of my
Yes,
hair. Were
yeah,
you one of those
yes,
girls?
I was. I was.
Doing those shows. You did a lot of theater. A lot of theater.
A lot of theater. My second Broadway show was a show called Good News with Alice Faye and John Payne.
Ooh.
That actually brought me here.
Two movie stars.
Yes.
When
were
they say
great.
movie stars, those are movie stars.
Those are movie stars.
Yes.
Those are movie stars.
Yes,
and
I
we went
agree.
in and we opened that on Broadway. And then after that, I did a wonderful show with the late Lenny Baker. I don't know whether you know
Lenny Baker, of
he was
course.
Next Stop Greenwich Village.
Yes.
Consummate, fabulous actor.
Yes,
and I
I
did
know who he is.
I Love My Wife with
Right.
him. That was
Yes.
a Cy Coleman musical. And then after that, I did. God, I feel like I can give my resume, but there's such
That's okay.
fabulous, fabulous shows. Something incredible.
Study.
Beth
Did you
Henley's
s-
Crimes of the Heart.
Crimes of
Pulitzer
the-
Prize winning, 1991.
Did you do Crimes of the
Yeah,
Heart?
and that was so very exciting because most people thought
They
of
made a
me-
movie.
They did. They did. And Diane Keaton played
Right.
the role that I had played of Lenny. I've worked with Scott Bakula in Romance, you know, and then the most recent, which was Standing By for Tyne Daly and Gypsy.
Tell me about working.
Getting homesick talking
that's
about
not.
this.
Let me talk. I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
When you arrived in New York, you studied acting at all?
Oh, yes.
Because
yes.
you speak, you have this wonderful voice,
Thank
speaking
you.
voice.
Thank you.
It's like a Bancroftish.
I
Did
like
you know?
that.
Yes. It's
No, I
very,
like that.
It's very Bancroftish.
I like her
Yes, you do.
very much. Oh, no, I think she's tremendous.
You look like a
Yes.
young Kay Ballard, but
I've been
and
told.
between Annie Bancroft too.
Okay.
You know, young Annie Bancroft.
I'll take
And you're a real good actress. I've seen you work,
Oh.
and you sing too.
And I sing, too.
The studying, who did you study with in New York?
Well, I had majored in theater in college, and I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Right.
And then when I came into New York, Warren Robertson was one of the workshops that I worked
Here?
at.
Warren
He was
Robinson?
here, but he was also in New York.
Was he really?
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
And somebody else that taught under him was named Larry Moss, who actually teaches out here in Los Angeles right now.
Right.
Consummate acting teacher, consummate, and absolutely went right into working dance classes, voice classes, and acting classes most of the time I was
You
there.
studied it all, preparing
did.
yourself. So Jana Robbins, that's what you have to do. You have to prepare yourself. You have to study it all.
I think so. I mean, I think there's something for natural talent. I mean, I see that at times, especially in the film and the TV business. You know, kids are working younger, and I think, you know, they just have an instinct and a natural talent, and sometimes have the opportunity to learn on the job, hands-on training.
Right.
But I love the
Hands-on
way I
training. You
approached
just
it.
said something. There are a lot of shows out there that are doing that right now.
Well, okay.
Friends,
I know-
come on, Friends. All
No,
those
I know what
kids.
you're talking
All
about.
those
Everybody's
kids on
learning
Friends,
while they're
learning while
doing
they're
it.
getting $50,000, $60,000 a show.
I didn't think of that
Oh,
one.
come on.
I did it. Yeah,
It
yeah.
drives me crazy.
Yeah. No, it does happen. It does.
I mean,
happen.
when I grew
I'm-
up in show business, I mean, they're making this incredible salary, Jana.
I know, Skip.
I mean, I get sick.
I know. But I did do it what would have been considered, you know, the way we were taught when, and
Right.
absolutely started studying dance at 4 and
Right.
voice, and just prepared myself because I knew all my life that this is the arena for me to express myself, whether it is as an actress or in the other areas that I've started to you know, go out on into,
Right.
just through the arts, through the expression, the creative expression of the arts, is where I feel that I can make a difference.
Working with Time Daily in Gypsy.
In Gypsy.
You did it for 40, how many performances?
I went on for 40 performances. I was very
You were
lucky.
the bugle girl
Right,
in Gypsy at the beginning?
Whenever Tyne played Mama Rose,
Right.
then I played Mazeppa, the bumpet with the trumpet stripper.
The stripper.
Yeah.
Oh, I
yeah.
love that one.
And then I went on for Tyne Daly as Mama Rose
As
for
Mama
40
Rose.
performances.
That's a great role.
I think it's the consummate role. I think it is the best role that has ever been written for a female in the American theater to date.
Doing Mama Rose on stage.
Yeah.
What were you thinking about the day, first night out there when you first did it?
Well,
I have to know, because I know someone who did it, Mimi Hines. Remember Phil Cornelius?
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
great talent.
And I know her.
You
and
do,
I know
and
her.
she's great.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a strong row.
I was scared.
Jan.
I was
Jan.
scared, and she enters from the back of the house,
Right.
and it's announced that I'm going on instead of Tyne Daly,
And the people out there are disappointed.
and they're all going, oh,
Right.
you know, and then you have to kind of like walk through the audience going, sing out, Louise, you know.
Right, absolutely.
And people are looking like, oh no, it's you. But, you know, I don't feel that people were saying they were disappointed that it was me. They were only expressing disappointment that it wasn't Tyne.
Yes.
So once I was on the stage and portraying Mama Rose, as long as it was a good performance, I think that they then got caught up in Gypsy and the magnificence of that
Right.
musical and our story. I think very soon that dissipated and they were watching the show and
Yeah.
being with me.
Belting those songs.
Incredible score.
The end of the show.
Rose's turn.
Oh, God.
For
That
me,
gets
for me,
thrills.
for me.
Wasn't that?
It's incredible with the big rose
Rose.
sign above you, and it goes, Rose, 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 as she's singing at the end. I mean,
Right.
it's the moment of a woman who has tried to live
Right.
through her children or her relationships with other people, it makes me think of experiences in my own life, because I know what effort means in wanting something badly. And Rose so
Right.
badly wanted and was living through her children up to that point. And it's the
Right.
one moment where she takes a moment, looks inside of herself and says, okay, wait a minute. For me. Let's just do this just for me. Which I think is a wonderful thing also to learn in life, that when we do things, if we do it for ourselves,
Jana
then-
Robbins, you are doing things for yourself right now. Because
I am.
you just produced and directed what is it?
the participant.
Participant with
My associate was Chaz Palminteri.
wonderful actor.
Oh, he's something else.
Chaz
What a career,
I
right? And
love
it's
him.
certainly taken off, and
Right.
an incredibly beautiful leading man. He's just become a father. Dante Palminteri has just been born.
Nice Italiano
Yeah,
boy.
he's really a wonderful guy. And the show was written and starred his best friend for 20 years, an actor who is going to be much more well known in the very near future, named Dayton Calley.
Oh, he's wonderful.
And Dayton wrote and starred in The Participant. I directed it, And I have formed a production company called Better World Productions.
Better World Productions.
Yes.
It sounds like you want to do something better for helping people. A
It's
better
exactly
world
it.
means
That's
that word,
exactly
that
it.
better world. I like it, Jana.
Thank you, Skippy. When I first started thinking about what I wanted to do, I realized that all my life, even though perhaps there were times that I wanted to be noticed, I think actors, often that's where we're coming from, a desire to be noticed. But I've really taken a look at what it is that I want to do with the talent I have, or if I have visibility, what do I want to do? And I want to help, create a quality life, a better world by producing and directing film and television entertainment that inspires us to do that. That speaks to issues in our lives that can create a better quality of life.
Better quality. I hope you can take over the television talent department of these shows in the afternoons. And let's get quality shows instead of this trash we're getting on television.
Well,
These
yes.
talk shows I'm talking about.
Oh.
Everyone wants to be an actor and stars and on TV. This is what quality, I mean, this is...
Well, I'm starting with the theater. The Participant, it was an enormous success.
Right.
And I think I mentioned to you, I'm quite proud because of it, Dayton Kelly.
I was there the opening night.
Yes, you
and
were.
You had a lot of stars.
Yes,
and
I did.
A lot
And a
of
big
wonderful
party,
people.
and it was wonderful.
It was a turnout of all,
And it
really.
was, thank you so much.
Good actors.
And a great show. And I was really proud that Chaz, came in with me and helped because I learned a great deal from him. He had done it with Bronx Tale, and it was instrumental to have his, his guidance.
The people were there were very, very responsible about the theater.
Yes.
The people were concerned about what's theater about.
Yes.
And the films and movies.
I think we
and
work. I think we work hard, very, very hard.
There are
in the
actors in
theater.
Hollywood like yourself.
Oh, there are.
People don't know this.
There are.
Yeah. Jana, you do television, a lot
Yes,
of TV.
yes.
You just did, I love this clip you did. I love to show this clip right now.
Oh, I'd love it.
Of the...
You're thinking of showing something, I think, from Family Album?
That's it. I love it.
Oh, good.
May
I'd
I?
love to see that.
This
yeah,
is very cute.
I'd love to.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Nice and cute.
Come on, Donald. He's a doctor. Show him that thing under your arm.
Really, Donald, if you call my office in the morning, I'm sure we can set up an appointment.
Don't be silly. We're here. It's free. It'll take 5 seconds.
Well, actually, it itches more than it hurts.
Oh, and before I forget, could you sign this so we can get out of some airline tickets?
Albert, will you listen to me? I've been an editor at this house for 8 years and I haven't lost a writer yet. Well, one. But he wasn't nearly as talented as you.
Maid service?
Uh-huh. You have a natural talent, my dear, and I don't want it splattered all over the pavement.
Oh, call his bluff, Laura. Nobody reads anymore anyway.
Where is that damn plumber? If he doesn't get my engagement ring out of the drain before my fiancé gets here, well, that should wrap it up.
That's interesting. Very much of Kay Ballerish, that last clip of Twiggy.
Yes, I've been told that too, or a little bit of another woman that I always admired who was Eve Arden, who kind of had that snappy, kind of pizzazzy sidekick secretary thing going.
Is Jana that way? Is she really that way? Not really, right? Are you?
Not totally, because I mean, there's so many different sides to me, but I think on television, more often than not, I am cast for something that I think I elicit a bit of when you first meet me, which is kind of, pulled together in with a little pizzazz. But the things I've loved doing are when I go, like in Family Album, the character that was so vastly different, kind of,
What's the
street.
biggest lesson that you've learned since you've been out here in Hollywood?
How little I knew. How little I think I really understood the workings of the business beyond my own focus on my own Broadway career. I'm not talking about my training, but to truly understand the theater and I don't mean the theater, I mean the television and film, understanding the business, the power and the force behind it, all the different mechanisms that go into it. I was telling you when I was directing, I now understand how to hang the lights, how to direct a piece, what it takes to produce a piece, and that all of this is part of our entertainment industry.
Right.
And it's been so exciting to me. I mean, I came out here to further my own television career, but I've learned a little bit about all the sides of the business, and I've loved it. I've just grown so much as a human being.
Jodie Foster.
Ooh.
I'm going to use that one word,
Oh, my
Jodie
goodness.
Foster. What do you think?
Yes, I just answer yes.
Yes. She's great.
Consummate actress.
She's a wonderful actress.
You know, producing and directing in her own right. I understand a wonderful human being who shares my views about doing something with the innate talent and power that she now holds. And I think it is really exciting to see people who work that way get into the position where they can do something and use it well, and use it very well.
Shelley Winters said the same thing. She is very concerned about young girl actresses today. And Jodie Foster, yourself, you know.
I am thrilled that you just say that in the same breath, because I mean, Jodie.
She was very smart. She was very young. She left Hollywood. She had everything. She left it and finished school, went to Yale, finished, and learned about life and learned about the craft.
Well, when I went to
the
Academy Awards with Chaz, speaking of Chaz again, you know, he was up for Bullets Over Broadway,
yes,
Woody Allen.
And he was wonderful.
And went to the Academy Awards with him. And I remember meeting a lot of different people who somehow actually didn't come across as strongly in person as they do in their persona.
Right.
And then you walked into a room, and in a very understated classic look and a very understated dress stood Jodie Foster. And she had something about her when you would walk in the room that you went, oh my goodness. It was there, just standing there.
Yeah.
You felt that.
Favorite roles? Do you have any favorite roles, Jana?
I've gotten to do so many things that I loved, you know. The roles I like the best.
You've done Streetcar, haven't you?
I haven't.
You haven't done Streetcar?
I have not. You're casting me in something that would be great to do.
Yes.
Stella.
Streetcar.
Yeah,
Stella.
yeah,
You'd be
yeah,
wonderful.
not Blanche, Stella.
You'd be not
Absolutely.
Blanche, Stella. That's
right.
exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd be wonderful.
No, I'd love to do that. And it's those kind of roles that are my favorite. Because when you said to me, I talked about television and the wisecracking, it's when I get to be a chameleon and do roles that people would never let me play are my favorite roles. When I did do Lenny in Crimes of the Heart, she's the one with the ovary problem who has absolutely no sense of self and is very, very shy with men. To look inside of myself to create a human being. Another role, well, Mama Rose has to be there on the list. And last but not least, I love Dr. Livingston in Agnes of God.
Agnes of God.
Agnes of God. It's an incredible role. John Pilmeyer.
Yes. Do you write? Do you do writing?
I don't.
You don't really?
That's about the only area that I haven't moved out to in any way. I've been very lucky working, as I said, with Dayton Cali.
Right.
I edit. I contribute in kind of an overseeing way, you know, like being a consultant. But I've never sat down to write just myself. Maybe that's the next area, the next horizon.
But you sing, Jana Robbins. Look at this. This is your new album right now, and it's Jana Robbins Face to Face. I love that. What do you mean face to face means?
You know, it's a double entendre, and I'm glad that you asked that. I mean, there is a song on here that is called Face to Face. So we picked that particular number to be the title of the album.
Right.
But actually, face to face is like coming face to face with yourself or coming face to face with me by listening to my music. So that's how we picked
You just
that.
worked with Dice, Andrew Dice,
I
is
did.
it? Tell me about working on that show.
Well,
the show is called?
The show is called Bless This House.
Bless This House, one of the big hit now.
It's a big hit now. I understand that we have, or they have, because I'm just recurring. I'm not a regular on the series.
What do you play?
I play the real estate agent who keeps taking them from probably bad house to bad house, which is kind of funny. And the setup takes place in New York. Kathy Moriarty, she's fabulous. She's fabulous.
She has a pizza house, you know, on Cannon.
Didn't.
You didn't know that,
No.
did you? She's on Cannon. She is a little pizza place on Cannon called the Mulberry Street.
Oh my goodness. Well,
And
I
it's
gotta
doing quite
go.
well. Go ahead.
She was fun. She was really, really fun and available. And both she and Andrew, I mean, have to be really excited at this point that the series is a go and they're picking up and going with it. The other characters are in it that are very, very good too. A young girl named Regan Kotz. As a matter of fact, I have my fingers crossed that I'm going to produce her in Better World Productions' next show, which is a children's musical.
Children's musical.
Called Flavia and the Dream Maker, about learning to believe in yourself and follow your dreams. And it's based on a book by Flavia Whedon, who's known across the country as a writer and does greeting cards and an illustrator. And it's the story of her life. And Regan, who was on Bless This House, was in Annie on Broadway and was in Les
She's
Miserables.
wonderful. She's wonderful.
And if I'm lucky, so nothing is signed, I'm talking in advance, but if I'm lucky, I'll have her working with me on Flavia and the Dreammaker.
Working with Time Daly must have been fun.
Tyne was really...
People didn't know she sang, you know.
No,
A lot of people, they were surprised.
Well, she had sung years ago, is what I understand.
And her brother is wonderful,
Oh, isn't
Tim.
he? Yeah, on Wings.
Oh,
Tim Daly.
I interviewed him, and I
Yeah.
think he's charming. Him and his wife I interviewed.
I don't know
And they're
her.
so charming. Oh, she's a wonderful actress.
Well, Tyne was
Wonderful actress.
Tyne was terrific in the show, and she got incredible reviews. And standing by for her was a terrific experience for me because Tyne really is magnanimous and giving. And I said to some people that she was just the great leader of a ship. To have a star at the helm that was as generous and as talented as she was, I think, helped create the success of that show.
Some Broadway shows some of the favorites of.
Well, I think the ones I didn't really get to mention, as I said, I did do Romance also, you know, with Scott
was in that?
Bakula.
Scott, yes.
And wow,
nice
he's
guy.
boy, is he taken off, and he really is a nice guy and awfully talented. And I had met him years ago when actually we had done a little episode of West Side Story together. You know,
Really?
way back when. But. You know, I miss New York while we talk about it.
You do?
It makes me.
Yeah,
makes
you live
me
in
miss New
California,
York.
right?
I live here now. I
See,
came
I'm
out
a
about-
New Yorker too, and I really, my heart's back in there. I'm staying here, but I'm living. I've been camping out. They say when you leave New York, you're camping out. We've been camping out a
We're
long
camping.
time.
No, I still don't have my own like really primary address here. My primary address
Really?
is in New York. Oh,
yes.
yes.
So you go back and forth. You're
yes,
bi-coast.
Yes,
I see.
truly, my address in New York
It's in New York.
is in. My home is in New York, and I spend a great deal of time out here, and I stay out here and perform out here. But I haven't actually taken a home out here. I guess that would be the next.
Jana
commitment.
Robbins, you're casting movies now. You're a casting director.
Well,
You're,
yes,
You know, now
I-
you're casting a movie.
Yes.
And look at the
a
cast.
very big one.
Name some of this is a big movie.
Yes, it is.
Jana, I'm talking about big.
No, this is major big. Now,
Okay,
as of
who you're
today,
casting?
at this point, I'm going to give you the 2-star names, and
Okay.
as soon as some of the deals are signed, I could probably go on to the rest. But absolutely, it's called The Last Days of Frankie the Fly, written again by Dayton Calley, who I directed and produced in The Participants. People came and saw that show, read his scripts, and this is the next outcome from that show being done. And Frankie the Fly stars Dennis Hopper and Daryl Hannah. And then as we speak, I'm working with Dayton because he really appreciated my input, and I appreciate that he did. And he asked me if I would come on in and oversee the casting. No, I'm not officially a casting director.
No, I
but I've been
understand.
working with a lovely man named Gino Havens, who is an official
I know
casting
Gino.
director.
Yeah, I know him.
And Gino and I
wonderful.
are, we're having the best time. You know, when you've asked me what I've learned, like, this has been an incredible situation because I am helping to cast. So I am watching people audition, I am talking to the agents, I am talking to the managers, and in the last 2 weeks, truly, even though I've worked all my life in this area, I really can see what works, what doesn't work in the audition, what happens, what I can name you, the agents that I respond to on the phone, who I would pick up the phone and call immediately again because of a way they have on the phone, the people I don't know who they are, the agents that submitted and were right, were wrong. And Gino has been a joy to work with because I've never been in an office situation like this, day in, day out with somebody that where there's not a moment of not getting along and not agreeing on this.
Right. But when someone comes in,
yes,
if they bring that something a little different to you for that.
That's
did I something?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I'm enjoying
right?
this so much. You stimulate me. So,
It's
you often think you know what you want.
Right.
But there is the time when the person walks in and just does something with the scene. I never understood it really before when I was auditioning, but when you see it, you say, that's it.
That's it.
And all of a sudden, there are a couple roles that's not what I was thinking, but that person walked in. I mean, I brought them there based on description, age, or whatever.
Of course.
But they walk in and they do something, and you go, yes, they just made that script come alive with their own choices or their own quirkiness or just a little something they had, and they own it. They own the role. I'm seeing that, and I get chills. I get chills.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there's all the other times that you sit there and you smile very nicely, and you have to be very, very pleasant while you're seeing nothing. And
We have some
that's
good
hard.
young actors out there.
We do.
I mean, you have to search, but they're there.
They are there, and this has been time-consuming and working and calling, but when it comes in the room, it's nothing more exciting.
It isn't it?
No.
I love it too. You really love showbiz. You
I
love
do.
your theater and your movies.
I do.
And, Jana, but right now you are doing this, and what would you like to do, say, 5 years from now? What would you like to do, say, 5 years from
I
now?
think, I don't want to liken myself to somebody else. I mean, but you were bringing it up when you said, like, Jodie Foster or Bette
Right,
Midler.
right.
Or Streisand, I mean, because I'm going across a bunch of different people. Goldie Hawn. In no ways giving up my acting career.
It seems like you're going in that direction for me.
I want to continue the acting career,
Right.
but move out very, very strongly into the directing and the producing, so that that creatively I'm behind the entire thing. I don't know whether that sounds like I want to own something, because that's not what I mean. But I feel that I have a natural talent in these areas, and I would just like to expand it and make a contribution by using them.
You're right. But tell me about Hopper, Dennis Hopper.
He's going to be fabulous.
Oh, I just love him.
He's going to be fabulous, and he's been doing such incredible work recently, ever since his resurgence,
Right.
basically, coming. This is going to be a very, very different role for Dennis Hopper. And
It
I
is?
think that's one of the reasons he's so excited about doing it, and we're so excited about having him. Yeah, usually Dennis plays kind of like the bad guy, the big bad guy. And in The Last Days of Frankie the Fly, he's actually the underdog. He's kind of like the little lovable gopher guy for the head mafia person. And Dennis is going to have an opportunity to show, I think, a comedic vulnerability about himself that he hasn't had the opportunity to do in other roles.
I want to say one thing. Tell my young actors out there in Hollywood or out there in the world, you said something that bring your own thing to them is great, but tell them, should they prepare themselves? These kids just think they come to Hollywood on a bus and come here and they want to, everybody wants to be a movie star. Tell them it's not that like that. Everyone wants to be a movie star.
No, it's easy for me to talk to this, because I think a lot of people do just show up and think, oh, I'm going to get off the bus and I'm
Right.
going to have fame and fortune, and they're looking for something outside themselves, where being a great actor is about developing yourself from the inside out, so
Right.
you can bring that special quality that you have. And as far as the training is concerned, I think it's invaluable, because those cameras start rolling and the curtain is up and the audience is out there, and I think you need technique to fall back on, because maybe you can do it once. Maybe here's an interesting answer to that. I had somebody come in and really just do something for me that was right on. And somebody had given me a little hint, and they said, when somebody does just a short little thing
Right.
perfectly, ask them to do it again. And so I said, could you do that again? What it's about is, it's not a question about improving it. It's not about making any more out of it. It's just, the question was, can you do that again? And interestingly enough, he could not reproduce it.
Reproduce it.
So when you have the technique behind your work and your talent, then I think that's something that then you
Technique.
can learn to reproduce it. So I think you need a